Alright, this should be a shorter video than most of the ones where I go on and on. But huge thanks to Dalamar for this. Couldn't have any of this data without him. But he found a bunch of clan result data for me, and I've done a lot of stat stuff with the official single player tournaments, but not able to include the clan results. So it's fun to get to start exploring clan results. And we're going to ask who played the best for their clans, who were players who we've seen be great in other formats but didn't do so well for their clans, and we'll see players who did great for their clans but not so well individually, which I think's a cool difference to find. And I'll also look at what was the most dominant, specifically Clan Wars team ever. And so we have results. But first, what are the results we have and some thank yous? So Dalamar found a lot of Clan Wars data for me, which is fantastic. And using the Wayback Archive, I was able to find some Clan League data, but it is incomplete. So there's going to be so many caveats about this data. I'm going to end up ranking players and teams by overall win percentage. What percentage of your games did you win? But we're going to go through a million caveats first because, as a proper non bullshit statistician, I like to explain why my data does not, in fact, say everything. So, first of all, it's an incomplete data set. I just don't have all the results. I don't have Clan Wars 1 through 4 at all. And what I do have of Clan Wars 5 is only round 1 results, and I don't have the finals of Clan Wars 8 either. I know Paradigm Shift 1, but I don't know how convincingly. I do have everything else from that year. I also have all of Clan League 8 and most of Clan League 9, but no other Clan Leagues, not the earlier Clan Wars. So this is very far from, all the games that were played. Secondly, the data isn't evenly spread, right? I just don't have the early data. I cannot credit the early players here. I have early single player data. I can credit Spitfire and Karmazin and lots of others. Here I don't have that. So, you know, another thing is this is going to be the more recent players that are getting credit here. Third of all, I don't have a difficulty adjustment. I like to use stats like ELO, the rating system I use, because if you beat better people, you get more points for it. And here, we're just going to be win percentage. So some people happen to draw really tough opponents, some didn't. You know, I'll try to give mention where I can, where I noticed it, which is, going to probably happen in biased places because I am not an unbiased human being. But I will try to mention this a few times when it comes up. But obviously, you could have been a really good player who got terrible pairings, and you're not going to show up here. Then there's rule set advantages, right? In clan leagues, there was a home rule set and a wave rule set. You were randomly drawn from your team whether you would play in a given round or not. So you might have ended up playing your home rule set a lot, or you might have ended up playing a wave rule sets a lot. And of course, that's going to make it easier or trickier. And I made no adjustments here, just spitting out win percentage, no advanced data use. Can we go to the next one? Mixing open and closed, right? We have closed, which is great. We have open, which is great. I think mixing them is fine. But basically, some people got different distributions between open and closed. And closed is a somewhat more randomized game, which is why to find the best players at closed, you really needed the bigger samples of like closed trade. The people who were best at that truly were the phenomenal closed players. And the more closed you got in just what rule sets you happen to draw, probably the closer you're going to come to 50%. More random moves you towards 50%, and it's going to be hard to be at the top of the leaderboards if you played more closed. And, so just not everyone got the same amount of open and closed, and that's going to affect results too. I didn't include activity results. This one I don't think is controversial, but might be, because so much of having a good team was having one that didn't give up activity losses. And players who didn't lose games by activity and sometimes won games by activity, those players were really valuable. Always being there for your team was really valuable. I did not include games that weren't played. And finally, how are ties counted? Which is, some tournaments you played until you win. Most clan wars were like this. Sometimes you played and whatever the result of the first game was, that's what counted. And sometimes you had to tie 3 times for it to count as the result. And I give an example here, you can pause and look through, but the point is, depending on which format it is, you can have the same players facing each other have very different scores at the end of it. And in the example, I can have, depending on whether ties count and how many ties you have to play before it counts, I can have Sally score anywhere from 70% to 100%. I can create a 30-point swing entirely based on how I count ties. So if you played more of Clan League, your ties are more likely to count, and ties are going to bring people closer to 50%, having them count. So the players who were in Clan League 8 and 9 are probably going to be slightly underrated by the overall win percentage. But again, there's so many caveats here. I love having these numbers. I would take them all with grains of salt. So a few just results that popped out to me as fun upsets. Dalamar defeats Delial in the Clan Wars 12 finals to send the match to tiebreaks. They were down 2-1 when he, really pulls out a clutch victory. In the Clan Wars 6 semifinals, FF Player 7, who's really good but never gets credit, defeats Meta, but Divas still end up taking it. And in Clan Wars 8, Clith beats Vid, but in all of these cases, the team with the defeated player still ended up winning the tournament, which is rather a shame. And all of these teams actually went on to win the tournament. Delial was playing for Brotherhood of Seed, Meta was playing with Divas, Vid was playing with Paradigm Shift. Every one of these big upsets happened against the team that ended up winning the tournament, which makes them fun upsets, but they weren't enough to stop these powerhouses. There are other fun results, but I tended to ignore them because some of them were people beating me. So then we have the best Clan Wars teams ever. I just took the teams that had the best win percentage throughout the tournament, and I came out with Clan Wars 7, T3, Triple Triad Trinity, having the most dominant Clan Wars performance. But I also think there are some other really good teams in here. That Divas team lost most of their things in the first round, and the further they went into the tournament, the more dominantly they won. So you could argue that the overall win percentage, which is very good, still underrates that Divas team in the later rounds of that tournament. Obviously, we get 2 Brotherhood of Seed teams, both champions. Goofily, the Clan Wars 11 Avalanche team, which I was part of, that lost to Brotherhood of Seed in the finals, has a higher overall win percentage. All 3 of our losses were against Brotherhood of Seed in the finals. And, they deserved the win, but that was a good Avalanche team. We also get Triforce in Clan Wars 7, the team that lost to T3, as the best runner-ups ever. And, I think this credits some good teams. I can't credit Paradigm Shift here because I don't have the finals result, but they would have had to have beaten Wethroloderim pretty badly in the finals to make this list. And I don't believe they did. I think it was close. So these, just by looking at win percentage, these came out as the 6 best clan teams. Again, only in the Clan Wars I have. So who was on the teams? Well, the T3 team had the Polish brothers, Great Sephiroth, Foyer, Phipps, Mick, Hellboy, Pokey, and Zero. And I, looking at those players, I wouldn't think that would perform better than the Brotherhood of Seed team, but it's clearly a great team. And I also think it's cool when you find teams that everything came together and they just played fantastically for a run. So you can see everyone who was on these teams. And let's get to the player ranking. So first, I'm going to talk about you disappointments, the people who didn't come through for their clans as well as you would expect them to. Though maybe they got tough pairings. As I said, I've had a million caveats here. But Turds was at 42%, Cookie at 44%, Broccoli at 46%, Vid and Kazik at 50% each. Just speaks to how tough these tournaments were. That these were players scoring 50% and lower. And, 4 of these players I have in the top 25 players of all time. And 2 of them closing in on top 10. I also set a minimum of games played to make the leaderboard. I'm going to show the top 25 win percentages. And this meant there were a bunch of players who got cut. I list them here. I want to shout out specifically Tezuka because he went 3-0 in the games I have. So he's undefeated technically. I think Lionheart is 2-0. And FF Players 4-1. There were a bunch of players here who you think if they got in a few more games have a chance at making the leaderboards here, but never got there. But I wanted to set a requirement because I didn't want someone who randomly just had a couple good games to make the leaderboard. I wanted it to take some time to make it there. So here's our 25th through 18th. We see a lot of big names, though I think this is a poor showing for Nightwish and Smokes, and Piggyman and Slash too. Slash and Nightwish are both kind of top 10-ish all-time players, and just over 50% seems low for players of that caliber, but sometimes you started playing early and gotten results when you weren't at your peak yet. Really nice result for Phipps. Clith has some really big upsets. He was in my upset list. Amo always really showed up for his clan teams. Very good player. Kazdon, one of those players who was just always good throughout a long stretch of time. Moving on to 11th through 17th. We have Alex at 60.7%. Never really got a feel for Alex or his play, but I kept being told he was good, and, this certainly bears that out. I think Dark Lord here is underrated. I said I'd mention if someone got really hard pairings. He only played 8 games, so he just made the cutoff for being included, but I think 4 of them were against Yojimbo, and 1 of them was against me, and his 3 losses were 2 to Yojimbo and 1 versus me. So this is very difficult pairings, and he still makes the leaderboard. If you only lose to Yojimbo and was up, you're doing okay. Kana also at 62.5%. I think a reasonable number for him, but I was actually expecting him to place a little higher. Jadat at 63%, I was super excited to see, because Jadat's one of those players who was just clearly a legend in 2005, and then really dropped off his tournament performances. Delial once mentioned how he thinks he might have the most first round exits, but I think it's Jadat, and Jadat's a very good player, and it's nice to see him show up, 14th in this list of clan performers, because maybe he was no longer motivated for single player stuff, but he really came through for his teams. Then we have Scythe, another great clan leader, and someone, again, I'm really happy to just see coming through for his teams. And Diamondback, who was a clan leader, I'm blanking on where, but was around a bunch of clans in a really important part, placing highly here, and it's nice to see it. And then there's a little bit of a jump to Chickeny, whose win percentage is going to look very similar to most people in the top 10, so it feels a little mean to cut him off at 11th rather than top 10, but that's just how the cookie crumbles. Anytime you look at win percentages, Chickeny comes out fantastic and continues to do so here. So, place your bets. Who do you think is going to finish number 1? There's a lot of big names left on the table. It is going to be one of those big names. This 3rd to 11th group, or 3rd to 14th, or however you want to cut it, is a pretty close group, and I think given all the caveats, you could scramble them in any order, but the winner ends up coming out way ahead. So if you wanna mentally place your bet on who you think is going to come top, and if they end up coming 9th, well, you were a bit off, but I'm curious if anyone will correctly guess who comes first here. It's a big name. It might not be one you immediately think of. All right, so here's 6th through 10th. We get Delial at 66.1%. Delial did this over a wider stretch of time than anyone else played, and that always means he drops some win percentage points, but obviously still performing tremendously well here. Bren performed really well, specifically against Brotherhood of Seed, and kept getting wins against their players, and comes 9th here. Another really good showing. Seto in 8th at 67.2%. You'd expect him to be somewhere in the top 10, and he certainly is. Yojimbo at 67.57% is the only player with more total wins in Clan Wars than Delial. Anytime you look at who just got the most wins, it is always Yojimbo and Delial, and here Yojimbo just ekes out a few more wins and a slightly higher percentage than Delial. And then we get Kamikaze, and the first bunch of tournaments I looked at, I was thinking, is Kamikaze ever going to lose? He, won his first 7. But he did end up dropping some games, and ends up coming 6th at 69.2%. And we have the top 5. Is your pick still alive? Well, if your pick was me, I go out next. 69.4%. Then we have Suikoden, who I never got a feel for at all, but I kept seeing on clan teams, and not thinking he was that great a player, but he clearly kept winning on clan teams. And he comes 4th at 70%. And then MC at 73%. Tremendously good performance, but also maybe a point in his favor in debates of MC versus Nightwish. Because often they're really close and really hard to separate who's the better tournament performer. But here, MC shows up about 20% ahead of Nightwish with a really strong showing. Top 2. Is your pick still alive? 2nd place, Cool Spot. What a name to come out here. At 83%, comfortably ahead of the field. You'd think with such a small sample format, there'd be some random names in there. But there really haven't been. This has really been a list of, very strong players. And I think it really speaks to Cool Spot doing phenomenally for his clans that shows up here at 83% in 2nd place. So who's your winner pick? Are you going to get it? Great Sephiroth. 100%. Won every clan game I could find. Including beating some really good players, including winning finals games in Clan Wars. Great Sephiroth is our man. And I'm really enthused by this result. because when looking for greatest of all time discussions, um, I kept not finding a reason that he would be in it. You know, it kept being he's the person closest to having a case, but I just can't figure out how to make a case for him. And finally, I found somewhere where Great Sephiroth not only comes out first, but comes out first by a large margin. And I'm really happy about that. I kept looking when I was making my rankings, and I just couldn't find it. And now I've finally found it. Great Sephiroth is our best clan player of all time. And I think that's it for this video. Hopefully, yeah, very short for me making a video because I tend to really ramble. Yeah, this is my first dive into clan data. It's had some fun results, and I think Great Sephiroth as the winner is a really good one and a deserving one.